Here's 3 strategies that I really suggest to get the most out of this book. And I hadn't really ever thought about this seriously, but it's a fantastic idea, and there's so many options that will allow you to really creatively engage your students. So I really recommend that you use that as a starting point and then write in your additional recommendations in the margins. Hi everybody, welcome to this week's video. In this video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is a book review. I got this book in the mail, Canvas LMS for Dummies by Marcus Painter and Eddie Small, and I spent this last week reading the book, and so I'm going to give you my honest opinion of the value of this book and the opportunities for improvement. Now, full disclosure, Eddie and Marcus are friends of mine. We talk on Slack every day. We're in various Canvas groups on Facebook and other platforms. And so they are my buddies, but I am totally willing to throw them under the bus if I need to and point out all of the opportunities for improvement and watch all the way through to see the pros and the cons of this book. So if you're watching this video, you already know that Canvas is a learning management system. It's made for courses, both online courses, hybrid, and traditional courses, to have online components to the classroom materials. Canvas was formed by a couple of students at Brigham Young University who were disgruntled by the fact that the online components of their course were really lackluster. And so they were looking at both coding and entrepreneurship and looking for an opportunity of maybe we can make a learning management system, or they didn't even call it that, a learning environment that is not lackluster, that's good. And so that's where Canvas came from. It started out primarily as a higher education tool, but quickly expanded to the K-12 arena. And I think that the K-12 audience has really benefited from Canvas and has really made it their own. So I feel like I'm a good person to review this book because at my institution, as of this recording, we've been using Canvas for 9 years. We're in our 9th year. So since 2013, we adopted Canvas, and now we're in 2022. And I consider myself an expert. My role has always been to help the instructional designers and the faculty and course developers at my institution to not only learn Canvas, but to really excel and explore its functionality. And as a side note, I was actually one of the very first students to see the Canvas interface. So the first institution to use Canvas was Brigham Young University, Hawaii, and I'm an alum from there. At the time I had already graduated, but I decided to go back and take a couple of online courses just because I wanted to stay sharp and keep my connections strong. And that was my first exposure to this Canvas environment, and it did so many things that the current LMS at the time couldn't do. So many gaps that it bridged that we were just looking for, and so I pitched it to my institution. Sometime after, we did make the migration over to Canvas, and we've been pretty happy ever since. So back to the contents of the book. This is written by Eddie and Marcus, and it really has the tone of, these are two guys from Indiana. They're in education, they're educators, they're not necessarily web developers, they're not artists. They're just like you and me, teaching classes to students, trying to make connections with classes. And so that's really the tone of the book and where this book is coming from. And one thing I appreciate this book is that it's a non-linear book, in that I happened to sit down and I read from chapter 1 through 16, and I read it in sequence as I was preparing to review this book, but you don't really have to do that. So anyway, here's 3 strategies that I really suggest to get the most out of this book. First, you can use it as a just-in-time tool, in that you have something that you want to do, pull out this book, look in the index, and navigate to where it is. Do I need to set up a module? Do I need to create an announcement? Do I need to do something? Find out where that is and scour that portion. You can read it from A to Z, from front to back, but to really retain, to really have it be valuable to you, you can read it just as you need it. And you can also focus on a topic. You might think, this week I really want to explore mastery paths, or I want to learn this one aspect of Canvas. And then you can study it, look at their notes, read the chapter, play in a sandbox. That's one of the things they recommend very early on in this book, is create a sandbox for yourself. Ask your institution to create a sandbox for you where you can be the teacher. You can explore, make mistakes, break things, fix things, present things in interesting ways, and really explore the platform that way. And if you don't have a sandbox at your institution and they're not able to get you one, you can sign up for one at the Free for Teachers account. So just Google in Canvas Free for Teachers, and any teacher can have access to Canvas. You don't have to pay for it. It's really a good way to explore. So just-in-time learning, focus on a topic was my second strategy. My third strategy is really you can browse the icons. And so it had been a while since I've read a Dummies book, and I used to read those a lot, like in college and such. If I hop open to a book, it has a certain iconology. And so you can go through the book and just bounce from icon to icon and look for tips or look for remember. And so you can partition the content and jump around that way. So there's various ways that you can explore this book, or you can read it from front to back. It's a pretty easy read, and they write in a voice that's really accessible, and it's not complicated to follow along. They really try and break it down so that we understand. So try and get that sandbox created that you can explore these things. So one thing I want to mention, in chapter 1, if you look at page 17, they talk about problem solving. There's a section here I appreciate. They say, you may be saying to yourself, I don't want options, just tell me what to do and I'll do it that way. And I get that sometimes as I'm teaching professors. It's like, here, there's a technology, just tell me what it does, tell me how to use it, prescribe it for me, step by step, give me a job aid, I'll just do it that way. But that's not really the intention of this book. Yes, they do explain a lot of processes and a lot of functionality in an easy way to understand way. But I also like that you can do problem solving. You can use an announcement tool or discussion thread in different ways, very unique ways. And the example that I tend to use is of a screwdriver. You can give me a screwdriver and say, here's a screwdriver. You either turn it right or you turn it left if you want to tighten or loosen a bolt or a screw. And so I might live my whole life with this screwdriver in my hand thinking, those are the two things I can do. I can put a screw in or I can take the screw out. And in reality, I'm missing out on so many other things. I can use the screwdriver to open a can of paint. I can chisel some ice. I can use it to create art. There's so many different functionalities. And so we don't want to be prescriptive in the tools that we use. And Canvas is one of those tools that we don't want to prescribe precisely how to use it. We want to say, here's what it was intended for, and here's something that you can do, but let's explore other options. And so I really like about how Eddie and Marcus approach this, and that they explore various options. For example, they talk about in chapter 8 about how to create an announcement, how to copy an announcement. If you create an announcement in one course, can I send that to different courses? And yes, you can. And here's how to do that. But then I like that they go above and beyond, not just explaining, here's the step, click, 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 and then you're done, but also try and think about it. So what are the different types of announcements that you can create? Do you want to do a video announcement, a talking head? Do you want to do a screencast? Should you turn on your microphone and do something like a podcast where they can hear your voice? Or is text on a page with pictures enough to get the announcement out? Or do you want to combine various aspects? And maybe something that you don't want to do is make an announcement that's exactly the same every week. Maybe you want to stagger it up a little bit. A common theme that I found in this book really is that you want to use Canvas to build relationships with your students. And that's really what teaching and learning comes down to, because students can read a book, they can acquire information from books or from materials, but the fact that we have facilitated classes is because we need those relationships. We need to build relationships among the students. The teacher has to have a relationship with the students, and they need to be able to engage in the content of the course, and the teacher needs to supervise and monitor that that's happening. So they have chapter 12 that's titled Running Wild, How to Own Student Ownership. And I really appreciate the effort that they make in order to get us to extend the learning. Yes, this book's about Canvas, but how can we make it about more than Canvas? How can we build those relationships with the students? How can we extend the learning? One thing that I like that they talk about are Easter eggs. And I hadn't really ever thought about this seriously, but it's a fantastic idea. And there's so many options that will allow you to really creatively engage your students. In one part of the book, they talk about changing your course card pictures. You have the pictures or the animated GIFs. And I had never thought about that. I like putting unique pictures for my class so that students know that this is my class. But maybe you could change out the picture every week, make it interesting for the students. In chapter 8, they talk specifically about Easter eggs, and an Easter egg that I like to do with my students, whether in Canvas or other course materials, is every semester I like to Rickroll my students, which means I hide some kind of reference to Rick Astley and the Never Gonna Give You Up music video. Another thing you could do for your students is to pick a theme. You could pick a theme for that course and stick with the theme, and it could be fun if it's something outside of the class. One time Eddie found out that his students don't know the movie Never Ending Story, and he felt, boy, that's a shame and a missed opportunity, And so the next week they log into class and they have references to the never-ending story. Pick a theme and stick with it, and then you have so many opportunities for Easter eggs in your courses. Now, I also want to point out some of maybe the opportunities for improvements or even the limitations of this book. For one, obviously, this is a print source, and so this book is going to be pictures and images. And they do have hyperlinks, but you have to type them out, and there's hyperlinks throughout the book. But it's a very manual process, and of course this is a book, it's a print book, and so maybe if you get a digital, if there's a Kindle version, then it might have a little bit more interactivity. But just know that with many of these Dummies books, you're learning software through print, and so there's inherently going to be some limitations there. Now, early on in the book, they do talk about learning styles a little bit, and part of me, I'll be brief, but I just have to call out the fallacy of learning styles. And I've actually created videos that talk, and I'll link up here, talk about learning styles, not only the fallacies, but the alternatives. We have learning theories that are based in research, empirical data, and really foster enhancement of teaching and learning. And in the video that I link, I talk about how we should abandon this notion of learning styles, but we should embrace the notion of teaching styles, and that a lot of times the way we present content doesn't matter on a student's perception of a learning style, but rather on the content that we're trying to communicate to students. And of course, an inherent shortcoming of something that's print when you're learning about Canvas is that Canvas is always updating. Every month we have release notes, we have new features, and I did notice that some of the content has been updated. For example, when we're reading about how you can modify a picture and the width and height of a picture, traditionally we've been doing that in pixels. And now, since the publication, we have the ability to also modify a picture by percentages. So I can specify through the rich content editor and the image editor that I want a picture to span 50% of the width of the page, for example, which is going to make the image different if I have a large monitor or if I'm on a mobile device. It's going to adjust that image, as opposed to Pixels has a fixed width. And so in Canvas LMS for Dummies version 2, I expect that that will be updated. And there's several things that just by nature that Canvas is evolving. Canvas is practically a living and growing thing, that there's always going to be things that need to be updated. Now, when I reviewed this book, I also learned a few things myself, or, the things I picked up along the way, such as I realized that I really need to review the robustness of requirements and prerequisites for assignments. And it's something that I do use in my classes, but I feel like I could level up that aspect of my course development. As well as ePortfolio. The ePortfolio function has been a part of Canvas for many years, and I have yet to use it. And so when I read that section of this book, I actually read it twice, and really thinking to myself, I need to leverage this ePortfolio function. And I thought the same thing about chapter 13. We talk about Canvas Commons, and I do use Canvas Commons sometimes. I've contributed a few things and I've downloaded a few things, but I really don't leverage it as much as I should. And that is a rich repository of all kinds of interactivity, all kinds of lessons, and it would just be really good for me. And so reading this book, it motivated me to get into Commons more. And then I really liked here in chapter 16, 10 favorite Canvas add-ons, where they talk about things like Canvas Studio and Google Classroom's LTI tools, and it's really fun to explore. And although they talk about 10 add-ons, there's a whole lot more than 10. So I really recommend that you use that as a starting point and then write in your additional recommendations in the margins. And especially on page 242, make sure to write in howtocanvas.com in the margin. In fact, that should be on page 1 of those margins in chapter 16. But for real, get your copy of the book, mark it up, and write in those margins and make this your own. I think that this book should be on every professor and teacher's bookshelf. It'll be a great reference for you, and when you feel like you've mastered Canvas, it'll be there that you can lend to your fellow teachers. There's always going to be somebody down the hall who would benefit from glancing at your book for a week. But in general, I do think that there's a place on your bookshelf for this book, Canvas LMS for Dummies. So that's my take on it, and go into Amazon and order your copy. Thanks for listening to my take, and until next time.
Happy teaching and learning.